Sham. Dear colleagues, hope you're well. Welcome to today's session where we're talking about all things what publishers' expectations as it pertains to your journal publications. So basically today we're going through the different journal publishers and what their expectations are about when it comes to our publications and what are we expected to do in that process. So I'm going to go through what this presentation is all about. It's all about the practical guides to writing, disclosure, and publishing manuscripts in the age of AI. And we are not concerned about the question whether researchers should use AI, but we want to understand it, whether they understand publishers' expectations for ethical, transparent, and human accountable use of AI. So those are the things that we're going to be looking at today as we main focus on different publishers that we have and your key publishing houses, right? I'm specifically gonna be focusing on your key one or high-end publishers and high-end journals. And that's where I'm gonna be focusing on. So first things first, my name is Dr. Moringa. And I'm a researcher and an AI advisor. I've done a lot of AI work in terms of research and training and facilitation across the African continent. All right, we've been doing that kind of work and real AI relating to your publications, ethical use of AI, and things of that nature. So today we're going to be a very quick session that we just going to highlight and reflect on the different publishers' expectations regarding your publishing with using AI. Right, and I'm happy that the landscape has shifted, right? As we all know, for publishers and for researchers alike, the landscape has shifted overnight. We just woke up with ChatGPT in 2022, generative AI, and now we have Agentic AI looking at your cloud. AI and cloud core work. That's a lot of advancements that are happening at a very fast pace, such that if researchers are not keen on joining the train, they will chances of missing out are very high and huge. So the question is why publishers had to respond to AI. Right, publishers had to do something right about AI when it first was introduced. They had to do something, and what they had to do, they had to basically get to respond right in the best way they could. They had to respond in the best way they could because what the expectations of generative AI and what then would happen with this AI. Should we regard it as an author? Should we regard it as a co-author? Should we regard it as is what exactly should we categorize AI as? So those are the key things that researchers had to respond to, right? They had to respond to those questions because if they would not have responded to those questions, there was no way to come up with sound and progressive policies in journal publications, right? So editors began receiving manuscripts clearly written or heavily edited by AI, and often AI was undisclosed, and that created a question that created agent questions publishers could not ignore, right? For example, the first question is who is responsible? And this brings into the question the issue of accountability for AI generated content, right? We didn't know who was the clear owner of this work that has been generated by AI. And now the other question was, can AI be an author? All right, that question we've already settled, I think, in some of our engagements that we have, and tools produce text, but can they hold authorship? Right. Sure. The other one is, should should use be disclosed? Do we have to disclose the use of AI? And if we are to disclose the use of AI, to what extent do we have to do that? All right. So that is some of the key questions that we had as it pertains to the use of AI. Right. So now the other question now was the issue between ethical versus appropriate use. Now, where is the line between support and substitution? Where is the line between support and substitution in this whole matrix of AI? Right. So rather than banning AI, most publishers then built and advanced and progressed to build governance frameworks that sought to preserve trust in scholarly communication. And they had to do this because if they had not done that, it wasn't going to end well for them, because people would still use AI willy-nilly in the way that they deem fit and in the way that they think was the best way to use AI. Right. So they had to do something about it, right? But was that enough? Right. So surprisingly, most publishers they agree, they have everything in common, right? They have everything in common. By they have everything in common, what do I mean? I mean, I'm just checking. Sorry about. I need to check if those who are watching online, are they able to see my PowerPoint presentation? Just hold
Yes,
on.
Doc,
I'm
visible
picking up
support.
that there is no PowerPoint presentation showing on
It is
Facebook.
showing.
I'm gonna go to the studio quickly and see how we can resolve this one quickly, because it doesn't seem like it's sharing my PowerPoint presentation. Colleagues, please confirm if my PowerPoint presentation is showing.
Yes, it is showing.
Yes, we can see you.
I'm not
I
getting
can
any
see it from
response.
my
It is
end.
showing, Doc.
I'm not getting any response as it pertains to the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, on Teams I think it's showing, but on Facebook it's not. The PowerPoint presentation is not showing. I'm gonna address that quickly. Just bear with me. Just a second. Just bear with me. I just need to make sure that the colleagues that are on Facebook are able to also see the PowerPoint presentation. Just a second. All right. I think we are fine now. It seems to be showing now on Facebook as well. All right. So all right. Thank you so much. I think it's showing now on Facebook and YouTube. I think I'll hear the guys will confirm. Right. So basically, the question is, what then? The question is, right, there's a common ground as it regards to your what publishers say and what they think about the use of AI. Right, and the common ground across publishers is that AI may be used as a writing support tool, and authors stay fully accountable for every statement, citations, and conclusion, and also that transparency is essential when AI substantially contributes to AI. Right, those are some of the things that those are some of the things that publishers actually agree on, and those are the things that publishers say, right? So authors, they also say transparency is essential when AI substantially contributes to the journal article that you're writing, or to the writing of the journal article, right? They say this AI transparency is essential, and AI must never replace scholarly judgment, right? Although publishers differ in wording, their principles are remarkably consistent in that they all allow the use of AI in that regard. So the emerging consensus is not do not use AI. It is basically that use AI responsibly and transparently and under human oversight. That's what the response is, and that's what publishers say about the use of AI. All right, they say use it, but use it responsibly. All right, that's what they say. And then we move on to the issue of what AI can legitimately do. What is it that AI can legitimately help you do when you are writing using AI, right? So these are some of the things that we actually need to focus on and talk about greatly, as researchers, right? I mean, everyone by now knows that AI, they didn't assist in improving your grammar and academic language, and it also suggests alternative wording. You can develop manuscript structures, but not only manuscript structures, you can actually develop the entire manuscript, right, using AI. And you can generate and brainstorm ideas, you enhance clarity and readability, you can organize ideas and in a logical way, and you can also summarize literature for first understanding. These are some of the things that AI actually do, right? These are the things that AI actually assists us, and it also helps in refining abstracts and titles, right? But it does more than that, we all know, right? But the key principles in AI publications is that AI supports communication, right? AI should simply assist the communication of your ideas and your arguments. And it should not replace your scholarly thinking, and every suggestion must be critically evaluated before use, right? I always say that everything that comes out from AI should be treated as your first draft. It should be treated as a first draft, right? So what publishers do not know and do not allow, right? There are different types of red list, and the red lines is that a list AI, you cannot list AI as an author, right? That has long been established, and you need to submit AI outputs. You can't submit AI outputs without verification, and you can generate or manipulate findings using AI, and you only need to use AI in confidential. You can't use AI in confidential and peer review work, right? You cannot do these things, right? So you also cannot let AI make your scholarly decisions. That you cannot do, of course, and you cannot use AI to fabricate citations through AI inventions and invent participants data or quotations. You cannot do that, even though AI has the tendency to assist in those things. I think when we are talking about scholarly work and scholarly, how we as scholars should do things, we need to make sure that we need to use AI in a confidential, in a ethical way, and in a responsible way. So why? Then the question is why. So AI cannot accept accountability, right? It cannot respond. You can't use AI to respond to reviewers' comments, even though it does that. I know Claude does that. You cannot use it to respond to reviewers or to examiners' comments, right? You cannot declare, it can't declare conflict of interest or assume legal responsibility for published work, right? And these are the things that only humans could do and should do when they are writing their work, right? So, but now the question is, the aspect is, or the argument is, that AI is authorship is more than just writing, right? I think that's one thing that we need to agree, that being an author surpasses and goes beyond the mere aspect of writing, of putting words together, right? Why AI cannot be an author? So we're saying producing text is not the same as authorship, right? Putting text together like what AI does, it doesn't amount to authorship, right? And publishers strongly reject the idea that AI qualifies as an author, right? And academic, because there are key fundamental aspects that constitute academic authorship, and these requirements are intellectual responsibility, your accountability for the work, your ethical decision making, approval of the final manuscript, responding to editorial queries, and acceptance of legal responsibility, right? So AI possesses none of this, all right? It cannot take intellectual responsibility. It can't take accountability of the work when it is submitted. It can't make ethical decisions when the work is submitted, and approval of the final manuscript to put a thumbs up on the manuscript, and responding to editorial queries, right? Unless you only upload that work to it, right? Then an accept of legal responsibility. AI cannot do that. So what does AI does? It generates language but cannot own ideas, right? That's why they call large language models. They are good in generating language, putting text and words together, but it can't defend the arguments when they are being questioned, when you submitted your work, or accept responsibility for errors, right? When the work has been submitted and we say, what is gone wrong here? Right, it can't come to your rescue in that particular case unless you want to go and upload your work again so that you can have the AI assist you to develop the defense for your work. Right, so authorship then exclusively remain human, right? So authorship is the peer view of a human scholar, not the AI. AI does not fit in there, right? So what we are saying is that we need AI disclosure for when and why and why it was used, right? And the transparency then assist in building trust. So many journals now encourage or require disclosure of substantial AI use. So disclosure now then informs the readers and the editors, right? It does not imply misconduct. What you're simply doing is that you are disclosing how much of AI have you used and where have you used AI in your tool. So the matrix or the key pillars of AI disclosure would involve which tools were used, the name, specific AI system that were used, the purpose, why it was used in the process, the extent, how much it contributed, and the verification. You need to confirm in your AI disclosure that all outputs were author checked. You verify everything that had been produced from AI. So we're saying that inappropriate or example use or disclosure statement would be ChatGPT was used to improve language and organization. All scientific content was independently verified by the authors, right? That's an example, a short version of a disclosure. Then the other one would be not appropriate. The one that is not appropriate would be no disclosure, right? Is substantial undisclosed AI use undermines transparency and accountability. You've used AI, you've used AI, and if you've used it substantially, right? You've used it substantially, but for some reasons you don't want to disclose. You don't want to disclose why you used AI in your work, right? For the reasons that you yourself or fear of victimization, or we don't really know what you are afraid of for not disclosing that kind of work. So the disclosure now, it assists in terms of building trust, right? It's better for you to disclose, and when you have disclosed, right, the reviewers or the editors, when they pick up that there is some kind of AI use that is involved in here, they would then not give you problems or raise flags to say we're suspecting exclusive or a substantial use of AI. They would not go to that far because already you've disclosed. So the problem comes in when the reviewers or the editors are picking up that actually this is a kind of AI writing that has been used in this section, but you didn't disclose, right? That builds the issue of distrust, the trust between you and the integrity of your manuscript or your journal article diminishes, because there's already a suspicion that what this person used, but they didn't disclose the extent to which they use, right? So let's now look at publisher by publisher expectations, right? So we're going to begin and to start with Elsevier, right? That's what we're going to start to talk about. The question is, what does Elsevier say, right, as it pertains to the use of AI in writing? Elsevier, it says AI is simply a tool and it is not an author, right? They've been very firm about that. AI is simply a tool and it's not an author, right? So what then follows is that AI cannot then AI tools should always be applied with a human oversight and control. This is a statement taken straight from Elsevier. They say AI tools should always be applied with human oversight and control, right? And they say that authors remain fully responsible for, number one, factual accuracy, originality, interpretation, ethical compliance, and every sentence that is submitted. So the responsibility is for the authors, right, to make sure that any work that has been assisted with the tools as they regard them, right, it has been verified, it is accurate, it is original, right? We discussed in our previous videos that we did. You might want to go back and watch those. We discussed it further. What does originality means, right, when we are talking about writing in the age of AI? So interpretation, ethical compliance, and every sentence submitted should have been verified by the author. So let's check for a scenario. A researcher asks AI to write the discussion and submits it unchanged. And the reviewer says the discussion lacks critical engagement and contains unsupported claims. And AI produces the text, but the author, not the tool, is accountable, right? That's what we're saying when we're speaking about the concept of accountability. When you submit your journal article to the journals, right, the journals, whatever journals that you're submitting, where you sourced the information, right, would not be questioned, right? Who will be questioned in this particular case is the researcher who has submitted the work, because you would understand according to the policies of the, for example, your ChatGPT, your Claude, they said any output that comes out from this platform is solely and belongs to the user, right? And by that only, the LLMs or the generative AI owners, they've distanced themselves from any harm that will accrue from the use of their platforms, right? So they give the responsibility of the output to the person who has prompted the platform, right? So that follows then that if you submit a manuscript that is flawed, and that is fake citations, the journals, they don't ask AI or to say which AI tools did you use. It's you as the author who is at stake and your credibility at stake in that particular case. So that's why we say you need to make sure factual accuracy, originality, you need to make sure that interpretation of sources is clear, and we need to make sure that there is ethical compliance and every sentence that is submitted is accurate. Right. So then Elsevier also requires that there is a disclosure requirement, right? Elsevier requires a declaration when generative AI is used in writing. They require that declaration sits in a dedicated section at the end of the manuscript, immediately above the references. So in their requirements, Elsevier says, name the AI tools that was used, state the purpose of the use, and describe the extent of oversight. How much oversight did you practice in this particular case to ensure that the work that has been produced there has been verified and cross-checked? And they say basic grammar and spell check needs no declaration. You don't necessarily need to declare that you've done some editing using Grammarly or stuff like that, even though you might need to do that. But basic grammar and spelling check does not need no declaration to say I've used this ChatGPT. But where substantial work has been done, you actually and fundamentally needs to have to declare. Right. So authors should disclose the use of AI. That's the key point that comes out from the Elsevier policy on AI. Right, they say authors should disclose the use of AI tools, right? And declaration template, they have a declaration template that they provided. So they say declaration of generative AI in writing process. It says during the preparation of this work, the authors used ChatGPT or Cloud AI in order to generate the themes, right? After using these tools, the authors reviewed and edited the content as needed and take full responsibility for the content of the published article. That's what Elsevier require in terms or in instances where AI has been used. Right, so what are we getting here? We're getting that so far there is nothing wrong with using AI or doing your work, right? But the thing is, you need to disclose. So let's look at Springer Nature, right? Springer Nature emphasizes human accountability. They says large language models do not currently satisfy authorship criteria. They say AI cannot be listed as an author. They don't satisfy the criteria of an author. But Springer Nature encourages transparency. They encourage verification. They encourage responsible prompting, and they encourage protecting confidential information from being uploaded on AI platforms. So they say using AI is acceptable according to Springer Nature, but delegating scholarship is not. You can use AI in as much as you want, but you can then not be able to delegate a scholarship to AI, right? Springer Nature also emphasizes the issue of authorship and documentation, right? They say that an attribution of authorship carries with it accountability for the work, which cannot be effectively applied to LLMs. Authorship demands what AI cannot do, right? Humans can approve manuscripts. They can respond to reviewers and engage with reviewers in the reviewer comments, right? In the reviewer platform system, AI can respond to those reviewers, but not in as much as a human can do, right? Accept responsibility where wrong things are done in the manuscript when you are called to answer. Declare conflict of interest. AI cannot declare conflict of interest, right? So where to document it? So Springer Nature says LLM's use should be documented in the method section, or where none exist, a suitable alternative part of the manuscript. So normally it's just above the reference list. You need to have an acknowledgement section where you declare that AI has been used to do ABCD, and you mention the model. And after the model, some actually need the version of, for example, if you use Claude Sonnet 4.8 or ChatGPT version, whatever version that you've used in that particular case, that needs to be declared. Right, let's look at Taylor and Francis, the common one in IEEE. Right, so Taylor and Francis says using AI tools for article content generation is not in line with our authorship criteria. Right, is this assembly saying that you cannot generate the entire article from AI. Right, so the writing process should be done by the researcher, right? But then it says AI tools must be acknowledged and documented, and use must be transparent in the authored work, right? So what is fundamental for the Taylor and Francis is the aspect of generating the entire article, and that they totally prohibits. They do not tolerate that the paper will be rejected outright. Right, if they picked it up that the paper has been generated using AI. But now there's a question. There's an experience that one colleague was sharing with me that they didn't. Well, I don't know how much true that was, but they said to me, one journal in Taylor and Francis, the desk rejected my article. They said the chances of it having been generated with AI are very high. Looking at how the manuscript is, I don't know the reasoning that was behind it. It was desk rejected. But now the question is, how did we establish that the manuscript was AI generated? Right? What did we use the AI declaration tools? But already we know that AI declaration tools are problematic, with false positives and stuff. So let's look at the IEEE. The use of AI generated text shall be disclosed in the acknowledgement section, right? So AI generated section must cite the system used. Authors must use AI responsibly. So that's what they are looking for. They are not banning. They are not against the use of AI. they're actually saying the use of AI generated text shall be disclosed. It needs to be disclosed, and others needs to remain highly responsible for whatever work that they've generated. So in this table here, we just want to look at a reference matrix, right? And looking at comparing major publisher policies, right? What are these publishers saying? And is there consensus, and what exactly is happening, right? So we're looking at the Elsevier. It says AI for writing, they don't have a problem with it. You need to disclose your writing, yes, but they say it no authorship, right? Then they say verify outputs, and they say they do not allow AI in peer review, right? Because this is, I've discussed this a couple of times. You cannot upload somebody's work on AI platforms, right? Then let's go on Springer Nature. It says, yes, you can use AI for writing. Then you need to disclose where AI has been used, but you cannot list AI as an author. You need to verify that output, and you can't use AI in peer review. The Wiley journals, they said, yes, you can use AI in writing, but you need to disclose. You can't identify AI as an author, and you cannot review, right? So the top publishers, in a nutshell, their wording differs, but the principle converge, right? The debate is not AI can be used, but who remain accountable. For the top publishers, the idea is about accountability in any situation where AI has been used, right? And so now this clears up the confusion is with scholars, with researchers, with academics, with our senior colleagues and everybody else, right, as to publishers do not prohibit the use of AI, right? They don't prohibit the use of AI. And the reality is most publishers actually permit AI use, right? But what they actually prohibit is the irresponsible AI use and fabricated AI outputs. They also prohibit undisclosed AI use and prohibit AI replacing scholarly judgment, right? The distinction is constantly misunderstood by researchers, and that's why we have a lot of confusion, specifically when you are working in a group or in a group project, and you happen to meet or to collaborate with colleagues who do not believe in the use of AI, and there's a group of scholars who also believe in this affair. There's normally that confusion, and it normally builds in suspicion and mistrust as to what has been done and what has been used using AI. Right. So I think the confusion has been cleared from the metrics that we have to say the journal publishers actually, they encourage the use of AI. They do not prohibit the use of AI. What they're concerned about is the responsible use, the disclosure, and that we do not use fabricated information. Real case scenario, from acceptable to questionable use, right? Acceptable use, I have Dr. Lovu, who writes her results chapter, and after they have written their results chapter, they ask AI only to improve the grammar and check every sentence itself, verifies all references, and submits with disclosure, and the outcome aligns with the publisher policy. Then the questionable practice then is your prompt begins by write a literature review for me. Then you copied 90% of the output verbatim, and there's no verification of claims, and there's no disclosure, no critical engagement. And the reviewer, they say the work is superficial, it's generic, and it lacks originality. So the two scenarios, they distinguish between acceptable and questionable use. And take note, I'm not saying unacceptable use, right? I'm using the way questionable. This is questionable practice, right? Whether it is acceptable or not, well, that lies within the journals or the reviewers or the editors, right? But the first scenario describes somebody who's using AI tool as an assistant, right? And the issue of verification and human judgment lies specifically within the domain of the researcher. Whereas in the second scenario, what we see is that 90% of the work comes from the AI platform with little and minimum verification from the researcher themselves. And that is why it's questionable, or that work will be questionable. So another one, from misconduct to best practices, right? Academic misconduct. What constitutes academic misconduct when we're using AI? So we say prompt A, generate 40 references for me. Then AI fabricates 12 of them like it normally does, right? And researcher never checks, and then submission is rejected, right? And lesson is that hallucination become misconduct when authors fail to verify, right? So this brings us to a very important discussion to say, well, it's not, well, you should never blame AI for generating hallucinated citations, right? That's its architecture. It's like you are using a tool, right, that doesn't fit well with the screws that you want to unscrew, right? It has its limitations, right? But with your responsibility is to ensure that anything that comes out from there is verified by you until you can prompt it, until it gives you the actual accurate citations, right? So then to come and blame AI for generating fake citations and hallucinated citations, I think it's I don't know, it's not necessary, because by now we know that that's how the infrastructure itself is built. So the responsibility lies with the researcher to navigate those shortfalls of the platform and still achieve the desired outcome at the end, right? So what we say by ethical AI use is that you use AI to identify gaps and critique. You use AI improve flows of awkward sentences. You need to verify edits and add interpretations. And when that is being done, you need to disclose AI use clearly. And the outcome is that this here process closely aligns with the expectations of every major publishers that we know, right? So one of the greatest risks is the danger of hallucinated references, right? And we know that by now, and I've already mentioned that this is not an excuse, right? If in this day and age, you submitting your work with hallucinated citations, well, then that's problematic, right? So AI's tendency to fabricate information is one of the most serious concerns publishers raise. I know that between 2022 and 2026, right? In 2023, research that was done by Scopus, it revealed that in 1,000 articles, right, about 23 or 25 articles that were submitted had fake citations. That was before the use of generative AI. But the number is increased in 2026, where you're looking at in 1,000 articles, you would have 100 and 200 articles that are submitted that possesses fake citations. So this is a huge leap. This is a huge increase, right? And it shows that the researchers are not verifying the work. They're using non-existent references. They are using invented authors from AI, incorrect DOIs, and false quotations, fabricated statistics, untraceable sources. And verification is not optional. It is fundamental. It is a fundamental scholarly responsibility. Unchecked fabrications can lead to rejection or allegations of academic misconduct, right? So we as researchers, we actually need to be very careful and make sure that we verify our work. So what AI does is that it leaves footprints, it leaves patterns, right? And how then do editors recognize weak AI use? Warning signs editors notice, for example, generic and templated writing, repetitive phrasing, your furthermore, your underscore, your complex, your superficial literature reviews, weak critical analysis, lack of conceptual originality, polished but intellectually shallow work. And editors aren't hunting for AI. They are checking for genuine scholarship, right? So, well, some people might think that editors are on the drive to detect and identify where AI has been used. That's not entirely true, right? What editors actually really want, they're searching for originality of work. They're looking for critical thinking. They're looking for scholarly contribution, sound methodology, and trustworthy evidence. Those are the things that they're looking for. They don't care whether AI has been used or not. But because you've used it responsibly, then that's where they will pick up generic and templated writing. They pick up repetitive phrasing. They pick up superficial literature reviews, weak critical analysis, and lack of conceptual originality. And those are the things that they pick up, and now they get your work to be rejected. Right. So a safe AI publishing workflow, we're simply saying practical workflow for researchers. Number one includes generating ideas independently, verify every citation, rewrite in your own scholarly voice, add disclosure where required, use AI for clarity, not arguments, and check all factual claims, and confirm originality, and review the journal's AI policy before submission, right? So the responsible workflows reduces publication risks, and it strengthens the credibility of your work, right? It strengthens, it protects you from rejection. It also protects you from your work being retracted. Right, final reflections, colleagues, as we close, right? So we're saying the future of academic publishing, AI will not disappear from scholarly publishing. What is changing is the expectations placed on researchers, right? We are not going back. We're going to be using AI more and more and more in our writing in the future, right? We're already using agentic AI. So we're not going back. We're going to be using AI even more and more and strongly. The most successful researchers then will understand publishers' expectations, right? In terms of the policy and ethical use, they maintain intellectual ownership, they apply AI ethically, and then demonstrate rigorous verification, right? So the real question, colleagues, is whether researchers can use AI in ways that strengthen rather than weaken the credibility of scholarly knowledge, right? That's what is required. With that, colleagues, I think we've come to the end of our presentation today. On a Saturday, I want to open this platform to conversations and discussions and hear any thoughts and comments from what you colleagues think about AI and AI use in publishing and in article writing. Right. Any comments from the colleagues? I see that our attendance today is a bit low. Any comments, colleagues?
Good morning, doctor. Can you hear me?
Any comments? Yes, Taba Katibeng.
Thank you very much. Can you hear
go
me?
ahead.
Can you hear me, colleagues, on this platform?
We can't hear you. I can't hear you. Yes.
I can hear you, Doc.
Oh, but then the main speaker cannot. Let me just write it. Maybe he will read. Thank you very much.
We can hear you now. We can hear
you
now.
You can hear me now. All right.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say.
Solo, Doc.
Betro Sinvola, can you please, Bestro, can you please mute?
I was going to say thank you very much, Doctor, for this presentation. It is really eye-opening. Today we know what publishers are saying, and we will be in position to know exactly that, where to publish, and then what's even to read thoroughly. Now that you have told us that there are some statements which are written about AI which we need to take care of, then if I'm going for Elsevier, then I will read between lines to know exactly what they need of me as far as AI is concerned, and do likewise if I'm serious about publication. Thank you very much. This is all everyday eye-opening. Thank you very much, Doctor.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much, Taba. You're always bringing in some good reflections there. Thank you so much for that. Let's hear from Dr. Ntini. You can go ahead, Dr. Ntini.
Thank you, Doctor, and good morning to
you.
you and the participants.
Yes.
I am very glad to have these sessions going on. You know, all along we have been proceeding along trial and error. You hear this from somebody, you try it, it doesn't work, you are frustrated. I want to applaud you for coming up with a very effective program regarding this one. We want to write, but our problem is we are unable to harness and capitalize on the existing technologies currently. And your sessions are such enriching, empowering, and we hope to be doing much better than we are doing now. Thank you, Doctor.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr. Ntini, for those encouraging comments. I really appreciate. I'm not sure if there's any other hands, colleagues, or comments before we call it a day. All right, before we call it a day. So my encouragement always is that instead of you hiding and trying to avoid dealing with colleagues who have negative perceptions about the use of AI, right? You need to equip yourself with the policies of journal publishers. You need to equip yourself. It will liberate you, and you need to equip yourself with the institutional policies as well. Because we cannot shy away from the fact that there's still a group of scholars or researchers or academics who still look at you with long faces when they suspect that you used AI in whatever work that you're doing, of which is not a bad thing, using AI. All right. And you don't have to disclose everything that you've done with that you've used AI. If I can write my emails using AI, I should write, and no one should ask me to disclose whether I've written my email using AI. The question is, did I communicate what is supposed to be communicated in that email? Right. If I write my reports for PUs or submission or whatever reports that I don't have to disclose that I used AI in submitting my reports. Right, that whether you feel like there's American dashes in there or not, the fact that I've communicated and I verified the information did I communicate what is needed, right? And we've already established that AI cannot be an author. It simply brings text together. The ideas that you've given it shapes and helps to make a case with those ideas. So colleagues, thank you so much. If there is not much to engage today, then let's call it a day. We'll meet again next week, same time and same place, as we proceed to discuss all things AI. Again, as before we leave, my name is Dr. TP Moringa, and I'm running these workshops on a weekly basis every Saturday at 10. Please share with your students and your colleagues so that we can have a constructive and meaningful engagement as we advocate for responsible and ethical use of AI in academic writing. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Have a good weekend.